Classic. We have said this a lot this year. It is the last time in 2020 that we will be saying this, though. Ben Rasa, Jason Rouslin, we are both here. We are ready to go, Jason. It's been a hell of a golf year. It's been a hell of a year in general, but how are you doing on this final PGA event for us?
Ready to go to sleep. I'm ready to go to sleep for a month, if you will.
Hibernation.
Yeah, just a straight hibernation. No, honestly, it's been a lot of fun. There was a time when it was Masters Week in April, and I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs, learning, how to become a master gardener as quickly as I possibly could. And I didn't know when I'd be able to talk to you again. I didn't know when I'd be able to talk to all of our people that are joining us in chat. And so the fact that we got back to golf in June and have not stopped since, I know it's been a sprint, but it's been a lot of fun one. And at least we get to end with a resort style fun course, Grand Mcdowell drinking Coronas during the tournament. I know it's kind of weird now drinking Coronas, coronavirus. Anyways, it's really what it was. I wasn't making that up. And then we start the year back in Maui. So at least some good omens to end the year and start the year, right?
Absolutely. It's a laid back tournament. It's a good one for DFS. We've seen this course a lot. We're going to get into all that. And like I said, it's not like you're not going to be seeing us. We'll do a little Euro content, NFL, college football, college basketball. You guys know NBA is starting. It's not like we won't be busy. And then we start back up in Hawaii. So I'm excited. There's still a lot, as you talk about all the time. It doesn't matter if you win at the Masters or you win at Mayakoba. The money is the same. Taking down one of these tournaments counts all the same.
Yeah, it sure does. And they threw us out $300,000 to first place. So depending on what buy-in you want to go do, they've got it for you. Plus they even threw out a $5 GPP. So a really, really good offering for all intents, even though it's the last tournament of the year.
No doubt. Yeah. I do like, this is an event that it's a staple of the swing season, and I don't mind it. I wish we had Shot Tracker, but other than that.
Oh, yeah. That's something probably we should bring up right away because we had a lot of questions on that 2 weeks ago, I think was for the Bermuda or a couple of weeks ago. There is no Shot Tracker. There is no PGA Tour Live. We have a 3-hour coverage window. That's all the golf we're going to get to see here at beautiful El Camaleon. It adds to the tilt factor, but still a fun week nonetheless upcoming.
Yeah.
So let's talk about our first topic here, the waves, weather, and withdrawals. But before we do, this is our last week for PGA DFS. Ben and I just told us. So if you haven't joined us on the Awesemo Plus side and want to see what we've got on the premium side, behind the content, behind the paywall, I should say, then this is a great time to do so. Before the start of the year, just join us for just $9.95 for the week. Come in and see who Ben and I are playing, and of course, who we have rated in our top models. So come on and check us out. So Ben, looks like a little bit of precipitation there, maybe a little Montezuma's revenge in the form of a rainstorm, but it doesn't look like wind is going to follow. Although whenever there's rain in Mexico, we know that there could be some electricity. Maybe just suspension of play, but no real, draw, so to speak, right?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, you mentioned it. It might be some issues with the weather, but nothing that we can quantify, nothing that's going to change my player pool at all. I think overall the course will play fine. It won't be overly difficult, anything like that. Our first super chat for the last show, Christian Smith, we appreciate that. 45% answer, like it. I like answer a lot this week. That's a lot of answer, but if you hit it, you will have a lot of outs if you get it right.
Hey, listen, I just saw your tweet before we came on here that he's the winner of this event.
He's going to win.
And I know that you might not be the only one picking him to win this one. In fact, it's part of my hot take. But I did it because he's not like a super against the grain pick. I mean, he's one of the top 5 favorites. I have a combined take here. So yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. So Christian, I'm in for 45% answer. That's right where I came up in my initial builds. I started with 60% Thomas, somewhere in that range. And that's actually a perfect segue, Ben, for us to go in and talk about. First of all, no withdrawals. Sorry, my dog is very, very upset.
Wow.
I have no idea what she's so upset about.
Answer. It's a sign. You know it's a sign.
I didn't even know she was in here. She must have just busted through the door. So I'm sorry, everybody. I apologize.
This is an animal-friendly show.
Yeah, it's a very an animal-friendly show here. I apologize. So anyways, back to JT and a touch of class. We know that there's no waves. We'll talk. We talked about a little weather. So JT, a touch of class here. I want to ask you, last week we had the situation with Webb Simpson, highest owned guy, highest projected guy, everything about that. Same exact thing for JT here this week. So are you more comfortable like me going all in Justin Thomas, even though I was pretty much all in Webb Simpson last week? I feel a lot more comfortable doing it this week with JT.
So do I. I mean, he is a better player. I think the field is similar. And JT just rarely, if ever, even when he doesn't have it, his ability to grind and hang around the top 10, he's got 4 or 5 of his last 5 inside the top 10, best player in the field. There are other options. Chad has already mentioned, guys like Berger, Finau is up there. Brooks would probably be the sneakiest. Harris English, who's playing great. JT is just a cut above all those guys for me. I'd rather go to JT or go balanced with starting with Answer.
Yeah, so did you try and pair them up together?
JT and Answer? Yeah, I have no problem with that. I actually think you could even be more aggressive if you wanted to. I know I'm sure you'll have some value plays. We'll talk about Andy Ogletree, Turner Pro. There's some guys in the 6s. Primarily, though, I think this is going to be the standard build for me. It's JT and then someone in the 9K range. That's where I think I'm most comfortable.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Now, Koepka, he's getting a ton of airtime here this week, obviously being the second best player in the field, at least by ranking wise, and second highest priced golfer. Back-to-back top 10s. So does that interest you, or does the Instagram story from his pretty girlfriend there, Miss Jenna Sims, and tweeting about coming back from an event with a bottle of tequila and a Corona in his hand and yada, yada. Is Brooks here to win, or is Brooks here to party with Miss Sims?
It's probably the latter, but that doesn't mean he can't win. Listen, I came into the week thinking, okay, Brooks is interesting. He's obviously going to be an ownership discount. I just didn't feel the need to change that up. I feel so strongly that JT is going to play well. And as we've seen, the common trend in all these events has been winners from the 6K range, the 7K range. When that happens, even with Webb did not play well, but he didn't kill you, even though when you look in a vacuum, that's not what you're shooting for. So you get a lot of room if JT plays even reasonably good, and I feel very strongly that he will.
Harris plus 10K English. What's going on with that? It seems like it's almost a mainstay at this point to see him above 9.5.
I mean, it's tough because I rarely see it with him. He does a lot with around the green. He's putting insane. His tee to green is also strong. I have to give him credit there. He is playing good golf. I just look and I'd rather have Answer. I'd rather have almost every guy in the 9K range. That is a loaded range to me. Hovland is the one guy I'm not concerned about. I just don't know how he's going to handle this type of course. Ideally, when I think of Hovland, I don't think of a second shot course where drivers mitigated.
Yeah, Hovland has struggled here. Well, I shouldn't say struggled. He had the top 10, but then 2 missed cuts in a row since that top 10 here, which is a little astounding. We don't see Hovland miss many cuts at all, let alone 2 at the same place. So that's definitely interesting. Harris English, though, we saw him bounce back at Seaside, a couple of weeks ago at his home course there. He's also a winner here at Mayakoba. And that brings me into my next topic, the Seaside correlation. We got Patton Kizzire also winning here and playing pretty well last week. Listen, one's on the Atlantic and one's on the Gulf of Mexico, so it's not like we're going to get identical courses. But the way it sets up, we've seen similar type of winners at both courses. Do you see the correlation there, or am I just totally making things up at this point?
I see, I think there's a handful of courses that correlate, and they're all coastal tracks. I think Sony correlates in a lot of ways, certainly Heritage. So you're going to look and you're going to see some themes. There's a bunch of guys on tour that have a lot of top end finishes at RSM, at OHL, at Heritage, at Sony, and it's grouped together. Chat right now, we got another super chat from Christian. He mentioned Johnny question marks, as Pat Mayo calls him. He's a former winner here. There's a lot of guys that it's not a coincidence when they win here. They've also done good at other, par 70, 71 type coastal tracks.
Yeah, Christian must be maybe a little not the devil on the shoulder. What's the other guy? When you have 2 guys on your shoulders, because he's right there. Because those 3 guys, single entry, that's kind of where I'm heading. I'm not gonna lie to you. Doug Gim with Answer, take the chalk of Answer, match it up with Johnny Ha and Doug Gim, who are probably not going to be that popular. I love that start. So maybe he will end up being the devil on the shoulder this week if those guys end up missing the cut. But we're gonna go for the latter there. So, all right, next question I want to ask you: Bermuda Championship. We saw Will Zalatoris, maybe it was Corrales, sorry, where he kind of strung up on the weekend. He just kind of snuck through and then played great. Another seaside track. So 9,200. I think in this field a reasonable price, but Ben, he's next to a guy that people are definitely more willing to play, I feel, in Joaquin Niemann. So 2 questions. 1, this week, do we like one over the other? And 2, a longer term view. Do we like them equally, or do you feel like one has a bit higher upside than the other?
It's a good question, both of them. I like Niemann over him in this week, and and listen, Will Z is talented. I've been impressed. Joaquin Niemann is talented too. He's just been around a little longer. I like Niemann long term over him. I think the sky's the limit for both, but listen, Niemann had all the momentum. He got COVID. He missed the Masters. He came back and he wasn't great. He grinded through a cut at RSM and now we're here. I feel pretty confident in him and Corey Connors to play well here. They're the cheapest of the 9K guys, but again, it's a range loaded with talent. And then you've got Ricky, who's just there. But I am playing some Ricky, as I always do.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we'll get into Ricky. I want to finish the thought on Willie Z first. Willie Z and Joaquin. From what I've seen, I think that Willie Z is probably a slightly better ball striker, slightly better off the tee than Niemann. I think they're pretty comparable on their irons. From what I've seen, again, I would say that Niemann gets hotter with his putter, but I think that Willie Z around the green is a little bit better. Again, a small sample from Willie Z. All of that equals up to a pretty close trajectory. Niemann's a couple of years younger. I don't know that really matters. I think Willie Z is 24 and Niemann's 22, something small like that. But trajectory, I think they're both pretty close. I think they both can contend for majors. So Willie Z come 10. So long term, I like both of them. I'm leaning Will this week. He got in my 500. Niemann got in my 200. So that's just how it ended up being for me this week. Again, I think a little bit more consistency off the tee from will help him here this week. So that's my finishing thought on that. Now to my Ricky Fowler versus Corey Connors question. But before we do, we've got a great super chat question. How does this strength of field compare to years past? It is the best field by far that this tournament has ever seen. I don't think we've ever seen 2 top 10 guys or 2 top 20 guys. And I think we have like 4 or 5. So really, really strong field. I think that'll make a difference a little bit. Maybe not in terms of winning score, just that the competition will be much more fierce. I mean, we've seen Brendan Todd and Matt Kuchar win the past couple of years. But listen, JT loves these scoring tracks, not to bounce around. Now, let me get back to Ricky Fowler versus Corey Connors. Corey's coming in at 20% owned and can't putt. Fowler's coming in at like 8% owned. Putter's starting to get hot. So I'm way more intrigued to play Fowler this week than I am Connors. Seems like a little bit of a switch coming from your end.
Interesting. Corey Connors is someone that I played at the Masters. I was super impressed. And then I was very worried at RSM because he had a breakthrough performance and he followed it up with another fantastic game strokes in all 4 categories, 8.7 tee to green. The guy's just playing good golf. He gets wedges in his hands and the putter is not a liability right now. Ricky, in theory, this is a very good course for him. He can club down. He can lean on the irons, which are suspect, but he can make a lot of putts. He hasn't shown that much of 2020 at all. So if you don't think he's the same player, you're going to have concerns. I still think that Ricky's going to be okay long-term. Maybe that's skeptical. Maybe I should wait and see, but you don't need that much Fowler to get overweight now that he's really struggled so long.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to come in under 10%. That's kind of where I like it. Yep. Also, we tweeted out an Instagram photo of him swinging. And while that may not tell us that much, what it did tell me on is I looked at the plane. I mean, this is getting technically a little too technical for my DFS analysis. I don't normally go to this length, but here's the thing. He was working on his swing. We know he was working on his swing. It actually looks a little bit better. I'm not going to lie to you. It looks like it's starting to come around. So that's why I'm a little bit more intrigued. He hasn't gotten rid of that silly new putter. He was one of the best freaking putters on the planet, and he changed and went to this mallet style putter for whatever the reason. He's not giving it up. It pisses me off more than it concerns me because I know he can make putts. He can make putts with a pool stick, for goodness sakes. He's that good of a putter. So that's why I'm in on Fowler this week, not to go any more long-winded there. I'm in, especially over Corey Connors. Here's the thing, Ben. He's been putting pretty good. he just really stinks putting on these greens. I mean, I looked at the putts per green in regulation of here, and that's the only stat we have. Listen, I know it's not a great stat. Don't yell at me, everybody. But listen, it hasn't been good here, and the results have kind of shown. So I'm kind of nervous. I would rather go down and pay for somebody like even Brian Harman. And let's talk about him for a second, because he's a really interesting case this week. Ben, what are you doing with him this week?
So a couple things. One, and this is, you talk about this a lot, and we'll get to it a little more with DK and FanDuel. Brian Harman is the min on FanDuel. So on FanDuel, certainly if you're playing cash, you're going to use him. In tournaments, if you want just, I don't want to say free square, but the obvious play, you use him. I still like him on DraftKings. I think it'll be more reasonably owned there. I have Grillo firmly ahead of him, but he had one, he had made 11 cuts in a row. He misses one cut at RSM, which is the biggest field of the year. It's a very difficult cut. And everyone kind of is just like, oh, this guy, it's like Adam Schenk. So I don't really worry about that. I think he's fine. I just prefer Grillo.
I do too. And it looks like he's going to come in higher owned than Grillo as well. And he doesn't
no respect.
Yeah, no respect. And he doesn't have great history here either. So here's exactly what I'm doing. I know the min price on FanDuel, and this is where the DK versus FanDuel topic comes into play. I know that he's min price on FanDuel, and you and I have talked about this so much. He's going to be super highly owned in the high dollar stuff on FanDuel. That's because he should be, right? I mean, I just ran projections. There's nothing I could do to get him out of 100% of my lineups. It's just what the projections are telling us, because he's better than a min price golfer. However, I'm going to use the leverage, just like I have in the Ryan Moore situation when they've done that to us a couple of times. I've faded him in the big dollar, and I've played him on a good percentage, 75+% on my GPPs, because if he makes the cut and I hit the combination around him, all I do is need him to make the cut at that point, right? So there's my leverage. I'll get it in the GPPs. I'll fade him in the big dollars, and I'll fade him on DraftKings, and I'll go right to Grillo, exactly like you said. I think that Grillo's playing fine. I mean, all we need him to do is match the field in putting, and he gets in the top 20 for us.
Listen, Grillo's been, I know we always joke about him, and he can be frustrating at times, but there's not many more consistent golfers for that type of price tag. His putting is bad, but his ball striking is elite. Makes cuts even when he doesn't have it with the putter. Now that caps his upside, and that's why he's, I think, a good cash play. In tournaments, you're going to need to probably leverage elsewhere, even if you go to him, maybe add a little more win equity in other parts. But I feel confident that Grillo plays well again, and this is a great course. It's not just that he's playing well. Mayakoba, El Camille, whatever this thing is called, it fits exactly what he wants to do.
Sure is. So we've got some going back up the price list. I know I jumped down a little bit, but going back up to the high eights. Looking at Carlos Ortiz, Billy Horschel, Mark Leishman, and Brendan Todd. Throw in Sebastian Munoz there too. So a pack of 5. I am leaning towards a guy, Ben, that I talked to you about many times on this show, telling you I thought his back was broken and that he is untouchable. Well, maybe a chiropractor in Augusta fixed it, because Mark Leishman all of a sudden looks really good, and he's going to be 5% below owned. And now all week, well, not all week, since yesterday, okay, when all of a sudden Tom Lewis, Romain Longoski, and some other guy named Leister, who I decided to play, came down with COVID, and DraftKings didn't update their player pool. I feel like I was going to have this scenario with Leishman because nobody wants to own him. I mean, he played good at Augusta, a top 25 here, Ben. What am I missing? Why does nobody want to own this guy?
So it's tough, because you look at him, and could this be, I talked about this. I bet Leishman at 55-1, and I feel great about that. Got some good value there. There's two ways to look at it. You could say, wow, he came in 13th at the Masters. He's shown no form. It's a complete outlier. I'm not going to chase. Or you could say that Leishman long-term is a damn good golfer, and maybe he found something at Augusta, and this is the catalyst for him to really get some momentum at low ownership. If you wait, I know the season's ending, but even if it wasn't, say there were more events, if you wait and he plays well here, all the value is gone. Now, then people are going to know it's a trend. His ownership is going to rise. His price is going to rise. So now's the time to do it. And I don't like the range, so I kind of have room for some Leishman flyers.
Love it. Love that you're seeing what I'm pitching there. Before we move on to the other guys in this kind of price range that I just mentioned, Christian wants to know about Hank Leviota. I think I said that correctly. We talked about him. Hank the Tank. He wants to know for high dollar single entry GPP, maybe not GPP, just single entry. Sorry. Is he a little too low for you? For me, he is. I would rather go up to Ventura, Gordon, Ogletree.
Yeah, I think that unless I say this to people all the time, if you have a line on a guy and you're just like, I really want this guy, more power to you. I don't see anything. I doubt you'll have anyone else who plays him in single entry. You literally could ISO him there.
Yep.
Which is always appealing, but I think it's a little thin that you don't need to do that. So unless you really like the play, I would probably roll it to maybe more likely guys to make that cut.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. We've seen a kind of a spike in the play a little bit, but
it's okay.
It's okay. I mean, the ball strike, he hasn't gained over a stroke in 4 strokes, but it's not bad. So I understand why you'd want to go there, Christian, but it's just a little too much for me. Again, I think that Will Gordon has already shown us more upside. Try and get the money to go there. It's only 200 more bucks or somewhere in that range. Even Christopher Ventura, he's shown us that upside as well. So, okay, before we go down to some more cuts, Sebastian Munoz, we called it. We both said that he thought he'd be hungover. It was a career start for him at Augusta. We saw it. So is this a bounce back spot for him, or is the run and season over for Munoz right now?
I think, I wouldn't be stunned to see him come back and play well. That was a tough sandwich spot. Gets a little rest, fine course, and he's a good player. Again, it's not a range. When I look at my teams and my lineups, we've already talked about JT. I've stated I love that 9K range. There's a lot of guys, and I like Rio. Yep. So where does this fall? I have Leishman Flyers. There's not enough room for me to get there. I do want to say real quick, though, we've got a couple people in chat say they're new to the chat, and which is great. It's really fun to pick up new viewers at the end here, and we're going to carry that momentum into 2021.
Sure.
But I got to tell them, we do have some rules here. You got to hit that like button. We need you. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. We have so many shows on this channel. You don't want to miss them. College basketball, college football, NFL, MMA, all sorts of, and then NBA is coming. So it's good to have some new people in the community. Hit that like button for us. We got a lot of viewers tonight, which is exciting to finish it off strong.
Sure is. So I know you just told me that it's a dead range.
It is.
I'm sorry to ask you one more guy, but I got to ask you about this guy who hit 92% of his fairways last week, or 91.1, something like that. And is the defending champion of the event, Brendan Todd, 8,600, less than 10%. Can I get you to play any, or is the broken toe or whatever he's got keeping you off on the sidelines for now?
Yeah, Brendan Todd had a good year, and then it tailed off. He's lost strokes tee to green in every event since the Wyndham back in August. That's just bad. His putter is on fire. Great course for him. I'm just a little concerned at where the game is at.
All right. Question we don't always ask each other here, because we are primarily GPP players here. So, everybody in chat, if you're new, take that into consideration. But if you do play cash, is Brendan Todd actually a good cash play? For me, I think he is. I think he pretty much easily gets to the weekend with how he's driving it. He's a good putter. I can see him finishing top 30 and really, helping out a 6 of 6 line.
I'd rather play Griot in cash, to be honest. That's where I would go.
I'll take them both, to be completely honest with you. I think it's a pretty good start. I'd even throw them in with the next guy I want to talk to you about as we transition down to our Make the Cut segment. A bunch of 4 here, guys that I'm all really interested in this week, guys that I've seen people talk about, you yourself, Adam Long, Alex Noren, Scott Piercy, and Keegan Bradley. 4 names, all playing pretty good golf. I think you're having affinity for Scott Piercy, but how about the other 3 as well?
Yeah, this is another. So the 9K range, I really like the upper 7s. Pretty loaded. You've got some players there. You mentioned Noren, but Piercy, good ball striker, slash some form here. And then you've got Keegan, even Noren. But I will focus on Scott Piercy for a second. 3 of 4, top 20 or better. Ball striking positive in all of them. He's not a good putter, but he never was. So I don't mind it. How do you order? You've got Piercy, you've got Noren, you've got HV3, Long. All these guys have shown some things that we want in this spot.
And here as well, or at
Absolutely.
least for Adam Long. So, I've faded Adam Long through this kind of stretch where he's played good, and I'm done fading him. Probably means that everybody else should fade him coming in kind of mildly owned here. So since it is true or Make the Cut, I've got all 3, Long, Noren, and Piercy making it through. But I think Keegan Bradley's putter catches up to him, and I don't think he makes the cut this week. A guy that's been popular these last couple of weeks, and his play has been topsy-turvy. We had a missed cut in Bermuda in the wind. We had a good finish, top 20 at Houston. Then we had a bad start at the RSM in the wind. Now we head to Mayakoba, 7,800 for Howard Varner, or 7,700, I should say. Does he see the weekend, or is this his last 2 rounds of the season?
It's tough. I think he's good enough to find the weekend, but I will say that HV3, he's more erratic than safe to me. He's got some upside. He can score, but he misses more cuts than I think he should, to be honest. So he's not a lock. I feel more comfortable with someone like Scott Piercy making the weekend.
Joel Damon and Patton Kazai are both coming in at flat 8K, both good course history, both playing pretty well. Are they falling into that dead range and you're just taking the extra $200 savings, going to Long in Norin, taking that $200, going up to Griot? Is that what you're doing with those two guys?
For the most part, Dahmen has some things that I like. He gets short irons in his hands. Kazai can putt, as we know, but for me, I'll find the extra money, or I'll steal some salary and play Long or Keegan. I mean, we'll work down to these guys. Straka is there as well.
Clayton, next super chat. I love these type of questions. Appreciate this. And this one's a good one, Ben. He wants to know who are off the cuff to make the cut for single entry. He needs two guys for single entry that we need to make the cut. Somebody in chat already brought it up, and I got to agree. Johnny Huh. I mean, the guy has gained in pretty much every facet of his game. He's lost very little where he has lost, and he's a former winner here. And I think he's going to come in under 5%. So I think he gets you through the weekend and gets you another top 25. So Johnny Huh for me, and another off the cuff, huh, Ben? That's what he's looking for here. I mean, can I just use Andy Ogletree, I guess? I mean, I think he sees the weekend as well.
So I'll say this. It obviously depends on how aggressive you want to be. Wesley Bryant as a cheapie, and we'll talk a little more about him later in the show, I think is totally fine. He's won at Heritage. If you want someone that's very aggressive, and you know me, I think that you can play Aaron Wise. He's got coastal splits. He has not played well this year, but he's flashed for him. And that's, again, you have to make sure it's in the right lineup. If you've already leveraged with some aggressive players, don't play Aaron Wise. Play Doug Gim. He's much safer at the same price point.
So what do you think Doug Gim's ownership is going to come in? I saw Tim Frank kind of chatting about it with you and on Twitter the last couple of days. And I got to be honest, I was a little nervous, like Tim was, that the ownership was just going to skyrocket this week, seeing how his play is there, his DFS points are there. And normally when the points are there, the results follow.
I was a little, and this is why ownership and one of the many tools we have behind the paywall is so important. I think that I thought Doug Gim would be massively popular. He's still going to garner ownership, but it doesn't look like it's going to be extreme. And that makes it appealing. He's really turned a corner. You were obviously on this guy very early. He had some struggles, but he's shown why all that pedigree was warranted.
Yep, totally agree. We need to get him to the top. He needs a top 10, Ben. He doesn't have one on the PGA Tour, and he's certainly talented enough to do so. Next guy that I think both of the ones I just mentioned, Huh and Gim, I both think they make the weekend, by the way. But I think that they're both great pivots off of a guy who I think we've seen the pinnacle of his fall play, and that's Denny McCarthy. I think maybe he gets through to the weekend, but he's had a couple of mid-40ths here. I think maybe we're heading for that again. So does he make the cut? I guess the answer would be yes there, right? But I'm pivoting in all of my GPP spots, and maybe the one or two cash lines that I do, I'll put him in there, but I'm pivoting off of him in every single GPP line because he's going to be double the ownership of most of these guys. No need for me to play him.
Yeah, I have no interest. And it just shows, as good a putter as he is, and he's a damn good putter, at RSM, he lost a stroke and a half putting, missed the cut because he can't compete if he doesn't gain a ton. His ball striking is just not good enough.
No, it really isn't. Just noticed I was a little dark, so I tried to turn up my lights there. Let's see. Hopefully that worked. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm doing here. Maybe
you got all sorts of shenanigans going on.
I don't know. It's like freezing cold. It's like 40 in Florida right now. I was telling the guys before the show. So maybe
tough scene.
I don't know. Maybe the electricity's not getting through or something because it's so cold. Anyways, that's not true at all. But okay, moving on. Chris Kirk, another good pivot in this range. Good week last week. Decent course history. Does he make the weekend for us this week?
Yeah, Chris Kirk is another. So this is what's really interesting about the Doug Gim situation. He's kind of like a lightning rod. You've got 4 or 5 guys right around him. You've mentioned Johnny Hu, Aaron Wise, Charlie Hoffman is there, and now Chris Kirk. He's not playing great, but he has made 5 of 6 cuts, 18th at RSM. This is a good course for him. 1 at RSM. He's 2nd at Sony, 4th at he has a lot of coastal finishes at some of these type of tracks. So I don't hate it. He's just definitely a pivot off some of the safer guys.
So this is a good one. Peyton in our chat asked us, who has more upside, Gim or Huh? That's a tough one. If you can only pick one, okay, John Huh has a top 10, has a win on the PGA Tour, right? Doug Gim doesn't. So is that the easiest answer? Probably. Given the recent form and given the DraftKings points, I would say Doug Ghim. Doug Ghim had, I think, 24 birdies at the RSM, but he couldn't avoid the bogeys and doubles, so obviously he didn't end up in the top 10. In terms of DraftKings points, I'll stick with Doug Ghim. In terms of upside in the tournament for positional points, I mean, I need to see Ghim avoid the bogeys to pick him there. So I guess it's a double answer. I would stick, if I was only picking one this week, I would lean Ghim.
It would be Ghim for me in both. I think he's just like I said, this guy, he's flashed some form, but to me, Doug Ghim is just a better player. I think he really has turned a corner.
I think so too. It looks like Frank in our chat is letting me know my University of Rhode Island Rams having a nice upset tonight of Seton Hall. Looks like
congratulations, well done.
Like that, I'm a college basketball fan, as Ben mentioned. He is. I love the show on Fridays with you, the betting show. I get to go and listen to you talk about some college basketball. That's always fun. So make sure you guys check that out. We got our buddy Jordan Klein behind the glass. He's going to be going to Vegas the next couple of days, putting some money on that college basketball.
Yeah, I got him covered. Don't worry. If he doesn't come back, you know how it went. But yeah, it's a great time of the year for that stuff. We're gonna make a little college basketball. I'm not sweat. I will say, chat, a little known fact about this show. I'd say 75% of the time I do the show during the season, I am sweating something out. I try to hold it together, but I have major bets going. All my college basketball is done for the day. I am focused on golf right now, if you can believe that.
The Rams just finished. All right, anyways. Yeah, I couldn't get you bet on the Rams today. I understand.
Well, I kept it nice, leaning out, 2-0, boom. Put it on the board.
So, tell me, Peter Putter Piping Hot Malnati has actually done more than just his putter. In fact, last time at the RSM, he lost with his putter, gained in the other three categories. And in fact, his last 4 starts, the most he's lost in any strokes gained category is 0.15%. What does that tell me? It tells me he's in real good control of his game. And Ben, I'm buying in here. I think that the price has come down now. And I know that the field is a little stronger, but this guy's playing good golf. I think at 7,300, he's a great buy this week.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago in reasonably equal fields of this strength, maybe a little worse. He was in the nines and people were playing him.
Yep.
When you look at, he had a really good string of form there at Sanderson Farm, Shriners, and Bermuda. Regressed a little at RSM, but let's dig into the stats. He lost 0.8 of a stroke putting. This is a world-class putter. If he does that, it's like Denny McCarthy. He's not going to be able to keep up. So I'm not worried about that. You know what you need. He's got the opportunities there. I will say that I do like Charlie Hoffman in the same range, but I'm on Malnati as well. Another one of those guys in the low 7s.
So a friend and foe of the show, Kyle Stanley, gained 1,000 strokes on the approach last week. Is that an anomaly, or is this guy back?
So that's one thing. I have a free article, betting article that talks about some picks, and Kyle Stanley is in there.
Okay, tell me more.
From the clouds, gained 8 strokes with the approach. I don't want to declare him back just yet, but I do think he did flash some forms. He had some good showings, again, at some coastal tracks. And this is a long-term buy on a guy that's done it. He's been there. He's done that. He's better than the players in this range if you think he still has some form. So cautiously optimistic. What a weird range, though. You've got Vaughn Taylor. You've got Ollie. Then you've got Stanley and guys like Bryce Garnett and Camilo off a really good week, all in that similar range.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a fun range.
Before
we move on to them, just quickly, a guy that's going to be popular this week that I'm the most nervous to fade, and I said those exact words in my new videos that I do, the top 5 fades of the week, and I picked this guy on one of them, but I am nervous about it. Chez Reavie, 7,600, good course history, but coming off of a miscut where he putted awful. Now, he goes on these stretches where his putter is absolutely non-existent. You just mentioned it. I would actually put Russell Henley in this same boat, where if their putters are that bad, it doesn't matter how good they hit their irons, they won't be able to compete. So with Chez Reavie, that's why I'm fading him. I know he hasn't missed a cut here in 4 or 5 tries, so I would maybe throw him in on a cash lineup, but for the most part, I'm avoiding him. Ben, do you think he packs it up and goes home for the winter here?
I mean, again, he's certainly good enough where he should make this cut, but some of these guys are going to get clipped. And you've mentioned this on the show before. Chez is a kind of a form golfer. When he plays well, I know this sounds kind of stupid, but when he plays well, he tends to continue to play well. When he doesn't play well, he doesn't seem to flip that switch. His putter is ice cold right now. I have a feeling it remains ice cold. Little nervous about him this week. I strongly prefer the other players in that range.
One thing I love about our chat is these guys are super sharp in here. And Jordan just let me know that Kyle Stanley looks like he is on this new kind of wave of players that are using longer drivers. And Dylan Fratelli is another one. Obviously, DeChambeau kind of spearheaded this, right? We saw Colin Shinkwin, I believe it is, on the European tour. He's using two drivers, one a 48 and one a normal one. So, Jordan, thank you for that tidbit. He's hitting the ball further. That's not going to help him here this week, though, right?
No, it's not a great course for that. But I do think there are some guys on tour. Aaron Wise is in this bucket for me. It forces them not to pull driver, and that's a good thing. Like they are sometimes their own worst enemy. You get in the fairway, you hit more greens, you make some putts. Pap Perez is an interesting name that Christian just pointed out.
Yep.
He loves these greens, as he mentioned. I couldn't agree more. His form has just been, first of all, I'm still not over the fact that he left Bermuda. No, he's just donezo. He has not made a cut since he's done that. So when he makes the cut, he leaves, and when he misses the cut, he's forced to leave. That's a tough scene. But I do think that Pat Perez, if interested, could be in a bounce back. The form is really bad, though.
It is. It's not great. So let's go back down to this low 7K range. I'm gonna throw 6 names out there. You already mentioned a couple of them. I want you to just tell me if you're going to think they're going to make or miss the weekend, and then we can kind of give our best plays in there. So Adam Hadwin working off of back-to-back top 10s here at Mayakoba. Graham Mcdowell, the Corona beer drinking, hot tub going past champion. Charlie Hoffman, Chesson Hadley, Ollie Shinerjans, and Vaughn Taylor along with Bryce Garnett. So then we'll get to Camilio after that. So again, Hadwin, McDowell, Hoffman, Shinerjans, Taylor, and Garnett.
A lot of names. I'm going to pick 2. I got Charlie Hoffman as a great flyer. This is a guy that when you get him right, you tend to get paid off. Yep. Starting to show some form. 14th at Corrales, 6th at Sanderson Farms. Then he misses 2 cuts, and you're like, oh my God. 29th at Houston, 23rd at RSM. Positive ball striking in both. Think you could go there. Bryce Garnett has been mentioned by chat. I just want to quickly rattle off these finishes for him. In his career, he's won at Corrales. He was 5th here in 2018. He was 6th here in 2014. He was 7th here in 2015. These are all his best finishes on tour. 11th here in 2019, 11th at RBC Heritage, 17th at RBC Heritage. Basically, all his finishes are coastal tracks. That tells you something about the player.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I guess, what do you think it is? Just because he's not that great off the tee and these coastal tracks are typically resort courses where you can get away with it off the tee?
I mean, obviously you know more than me in this aspect, but I just assume there's something about these type of layouts that fit his eye, fit his game, because the results are not lying. He's not a player that really pops up. And even when he's not in form, he seems to get right in these type of spots.
Listen, I think we need to give Ben a few likes for that. That is some digging up of some results of a low 7K guy. I think we got to appreciate.
I looked at him. I got into the lab earlier in the show because he's an interesting name. And at first glance, you're just like, well, he's not playing well. He seems to turn it on. And sometimes you have to try to, if all the steps are laid out, and this is something, obviously, Jason, you and me, we try to do on the show. If it's very obvious, that means everybody can see it. You're not going to get too far there. That's going to lead to someone really high owned. Sometimes you have to try to infer what the data means. It doesn't mean you're going to get it right. A lot of times you get punished, but we don't talk about those. We talk about when we get the scolding hot takes right on this show. That's what we're going to do with Bryce Garnett.
Okay, so Bryce Garnett and Charlie Hoffman were your 2 picks there.
Okay, what do you got?
I like the Bryce Garnett call, man. I can't get away from it either. It's just so weird. This guy just shows up on these tracks, and it's sometimes you just can't fight the data. I know we want to, but sometimes it's hard to. I like Vaughn Taylor this week. Here's a guy that has played maybe the least amount of most golfers coming back from COVID. I don't know if he got COVID, wasn't ready to come back, was injured, whatever it was, and he struggled. But he finally broke through at the RSM. We know he's a pretty talented player. So, yeah, Vaughn Taylor at 7K. I like him to get through the weekend. Graham Mcdowell was right on the line at Augusta. He was, one off, just missed on the number, had a putt on or chip on 18 to make it and missed it. I don't mind him this week. I also think he gets through. And Adam Hadwin, he was also right on the line at Augusta. I'm going to go to Adam Hadwin this week. I think that we get low ownership, and he likes this course, back-to-back top 10s, and we haven't seen a good start from him. I think it's just a little too long. He's a quality player. President's Cup, or I don't know if he made the President's Cup. I think he did, actually.
Oh, Hadwin?
Yeah, Hadwin made it, right?
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I think he's got good talent. I'll back him 7,200 this week. Ali Shinerjans, love him. Not the course for him. He's wild off the tee, and I think he'll struggle here because of that.
You never know what you're going to get with Ali. If he was 6,500, I would probably do it because there's not that many guys down there. You just rattled off 4 or 5 names all at 7K that I think are more reasonable options. So again, opportunity cost is a real thing. I'm not really there.
Yeah. A couple of guys here still in this upper 6 before we get into our deep dives and our hot takes that I want to talk to you about. Camilo Villegas just broke through on a nice seaside track there at the RSM. We're absolutely rooting for him. There's no doubt. I think everybody is. Everybody wants to see this guy fulfill his major medical, get back on the tour, and really make some waves. So is this another track that he can do it? I feel like it is.
I definitely think it's another track he can do it. The one thing I don't love is that, last week he was or at RSM, he was like the min or $100 north of the min, comes in 6th. That was the time to play him. Now you get the ownership bump and the price bump. It's kind of chasing. So I'm certainly not nearly as interested. It's not to say I liked him at RSM. I wish I did. It would have been very useful, but I don't love chasing it, even though it is a good track for him. And he's shown he can play well, obviously, in recent weeks.
Yeah, I would say that was an emotional top 5, one of the most emotional top 5s I've seen in a while. And, we know this game takes a lot of mental fortitude, and surely he's seen it with what has happened to him off the golf course, but maybe a little bit of a letdown spot here as he goes into the new year. Still with that top 5, he's got a lot to work off of. So diving down the price list, Luke List, this guy was 8,800 a couple of weeks ago in a relatively similar field. It's not a great track for him. I have him written down as any interest, because we've got some guys like Brandon Grace and Rafa Cabrera-Bello right in that range as well that I want to hear your takes on.
I looked at List. Ultimately, I just
didn't get there.
There's just nothing I see that I'm really impressed with. And similar kind of to RCB, I feel a little better with him, but the form has been bad on all these guys. I have to add one more name because I need you to talk about Brian Stewart. This guy also not in great form, but the irons are creeping up. Do you have any interest in him? It looks like he could gain a little ownership. Not a ton by any stretch, but I did catch his eye in a couple things.
Yeah, let me see. What was it last week or 2 weeks ago at the RSM? He was making a run, if I'm not mistaken.
He was. He
in one of the rounds, and then he crashed, right?
Yeah.
Was that on Sunday when he was making that run?
It was, I believe, on the weekend. I was not, to be perfectly honest, I was not paying super close attention at RSM.
The putter was bad. Like you said, the approaches were good. The approaches have been good 3 straight starts. His putter has been awful 3 straight starts, which is kind of surprising for him. He's typically a pretty good putter, especially when I won money on him. That's pretty much all he did. I don't love it. I don't hate it. If he is going to garner ownership, then shouldn't we just be looking at guys like Will Gordon and Christopher Ventura, who are probably not going to get it, who we know have top 10 upside if they make the cut?
That's what I would do. Will Gordon has shown it's hard to really nail down this guy. He's young. Stats will change. There's a couple other guys, though, as we work down. I've already mentioned Wesley Bryan. I want you to obviously, you will be talking about Andy Ogletree. I'll be nodding.
Yeah.
He went to Georgia Tech. That's what I've uncovered. I will also have to throw out Roger Sloan, who is a name that I never would consider, but he is playing pretty good golf. The form real quick, 32nd at Sanderson Farms, 16th at Bermuda, 23rd at RSM. You could do worse than that if you're in desperation mode.
Yeah, you sure can. I don't disagree. And so let's talk for a second about Ogletree here. We've seen him play a couple of events. We saw him play at the Masters. Obviously, he was the low am at the Masters. And funny enough, I mean, the 2 guys that were in the 2 golfers that made the weekend as an amateur, Augenstein and Ogletree, 2 vastly different players. I mean, Augenstein, he absolutely crushes the ball. He was watching him play, I mean, that's what he does. He tries to overpower a golf course. Where not so much with Ogletree. I mean, he tries to hit the fairways. He tries to at least be a little bit more, I'll say, old school. I mean, when I look at his stats from Augusta, it was around a 305-yard driving distance, which is, right in the middle of the pack. little above average on the driving accuracy. Looks like he hit about 60% of his fairways. So that all says to me that if he's not going to overpower a course and he's as good a golfer as he is, winning a U.S. amateur and such, means he's got to be good on, around, and with his irons. On the greens, around the greens, and with his irons. So if he's good with all three of those, this is the track to excel there. I'm going to give it a go. I've gone into these golfers before. I think this is a good spot. It's not like we've got, Justin Thomas along with John Rahm and Rory McIlroy in the field. No, we just have Justin Thomas. I don't think Andy Ogletree is going to be that nervous. And he already said his goals are he wants to get enough points to get him into the Korn Ferry Tour finals. He knows how hard it is to get special temporary membership. I think he sets a good goal there. At $6,700, I think it's a good price. I think it's a good spot.
I will say again, I'm not going to pretend that I know a lot about this guy, but I do like the spot in general for a variety of reasons. One, he's coming off, and I think the Masters is totally different for a lot of reasons. Some benefit him, some detract from him, but it's a reasonable price tag and an easy field relative to what he could have been thrown into if it was a much tougher environment. I think he can squeeze through the cut. I strongly prefer Wesley Bryant. There's a couple other flyers that I also like, but Ogletree, yeah. I actually may have exposure, and that's rare for me.
I like it. I like the thought. So let's go into our deep dives here for a couple of minutes before we go into our hot take. My question to you is Will Gordon somebody that we just have to play when he's below 7,000, given the fact that if he gets through the cut, we know he's going to pay off the salary? And is he a deep dive at this week, or do you think at this point he's well known enough where he needs to go back and to make the cut segment?
So I think that he's someone, if you're building a giant field, you're trying to win the $10, the big, whatever it's called, and you have 150 teams, he should be in your player pool. I don't think he's even remotely necessary in 3 max or anything where you have a finite amount of building blocks. He's a fine play if you like the line, but again, we don't know what we're going to get with this guy. I still think we're learning more on the fly. So with that many variables, I don't see a reason to force him in.
I agree. Somebody just asked us about Akshay Bhatia, and I am searching. The question about Akshay was
someone asked us about Ryan Gibson, that sounds like a made up person. So
yeah, it does. The question about Akshay, and I'm seeing, and I believe it was. No, I think the question was the Monday qualifier at El Camaleon, and I don't think it was. It typically isn't. Typically, the Monday qualifiers are not. I think it might have been held at, I'm seeing a Playa Paraiso golf club. Again, I will verify. Regardless, talk about Akshay Bhatia for a second. He did Monday qualify. He was one of the golfers to get in at $6,400 because he's a Monday qualifier. No one's going to play him. But we've seen this kid enough to know that he's wild off the tee. So maybe because he can't pull out that driver, he dials it down. 6,400, we know the kid's got upside. He's 18 years old, though. Are you ready to play him, Ben, or do you still need a year or two for this guy? And he will be around for a year or two. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's a spot here for him to at least see the weekend.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to play him. Even I'll loop in Green Gibson, who is someone I rarely, if ever, play. It's not to say that these guys couldn't make a cut. I'm just not sure exactly what the benefit is. Now, if you tell me I want to play JT and Brooks, and I also love Neiman, I have to get all 3 of them in a lineup, and this is the only way I can do it. Okay, I get the opportunity cost. I still wouldn't do it, but I see what you're saying. If you're playing these guys just to play them, what are you exactly accomplishing? Where are you upgrading? Where's that extra money going? That's really important to think about when you're building.
Yeah, it really is. Just to verify there on the Monday qualifier, I just sent the link in
Cameron
the chat.
Percy's down there too.
Cameron Percy is down there. It was played at this Biro Star Resort. It was not played here. Regardless, it's still it was right down the street, so it's not like it's that different of a golf course. Okay, so a couple of more guys here in this deep dive section that I wanted to talk to you about. Guy that sparked up in the Masters and actually was giving me a little bit of a sweat because I had him on I don't know why. Oh, I know why, because he was min-priced on the Sunday slate and he ended up playing by himself and playing well. Sung Kang. This guy is super dirt cheap. We know he's got some talent, but he's all over the map. Any deep dive in here for you? Any single dart for Sung Kang here for you this week?
No, but it's more that there was really no room for me down here. I didn't jam aggressively up top on many teams. I comfortably landed on Wesley Bryan as my last man. And even in aggression, when I was balanced, I landed on the guys like Doug Gim as my last man. So I didn't feel the need to go down there. You've got names. I looked at Chris Baker down there. I looked at Glickich down there. Ultimately, though, I don't feel the need to really force them in.
Yeah, I think that's
Quad Cummings, whoever that is.
Okay, so it's Quaid. I think it's
Sorry,
Quaid,
dude.
Yeah, Quaid, Cummins, and Austin Echorat. So something that the Mayakoba Classic does quite often, that's how we saw Victor Hovland play here 4 years ago as an amateur and come in the top 10. They invite some college stars. And this one, Echorat is from Oklahoma State and Cummins is from Oklahoma. Both guys are ranked in the mid-teens in official world amateur ranking. So they definitely have some pedigree to them. But for me, I haven't heard enough about them to say I'm going to play them over Ogletree this week, and they're roughly similar price. I don't think we're getting them at the min. So for me, it was an easy pass over just to go up to Ogletree.
There is one guy, and I don't. Do you have anyone out left? Because this guy probably going to be in my hot take, so we can save it for that as we wind down here.
Let me see. Actually, Badley was, Lebioda was in my deep dive section. Somebody already brought him up. Christian did about that. Aaron Badley, he was another guy that I wanted to ask you about. Finally, I think made a cut. I mean, we're deep diving. This is where we're going here.
Yeah, we're deep dive. We're naming guys that I know I joke about this, but some of these guys I actually didn't even know were in the field.
JJ Spawn's in the field for you.
We're going to get to him momentarily.
Oh, that was it. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I like it. JJ Spawn is going to do some things. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys down here. Chase Seaford is mentioned. He's an old guy that I like to play in spots. He
lost 8 strokes putting.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it was only one round. He lost 4 strokes putting at Seaside.
It's tough scene. Kelly Craft, like these guys, some of them are going to play well.
Yeah.
But you can't play all of them. You got to pick a couple at most if you want to load up. I really strongly would deter people from really spraying too wide in the low sixes.
Okay, so Ryan Gibson lost 2.54 strokes putting and 1.16 around the green, but gained 3/4 with his approaches. And subsequently, the other guy that I just mentioned, Seifert, he lost 4 strokes putting, a half a stroke around the green, but gained 2.65 strokes ball striking. So I understand why Chad is bringing both of those names up. It makes sense to me. If you had to pick one of those guys, would you go back to Seifert if you are diving down this range? For me, I did not see the Seifert tallies before I came on the show. So seeing that type of ball striking, it reminds me of Matthew Neesmith, who missed the cut at Houston but had great ball striking. Bounce back, came in the top 20 last week. So maybe we get something like that here with Seifert.
Again, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that. I'm just not sure when I build if it's necessary. Even Cameron Percy, I see some of the reasons why I'd want to play them. I'm just not sure. I feel very comfortable in the high 7s. I don't need to upgrade to like the mid 8s. I don't like that range that much. So unless I have a real reason, I won't do it.
So, sorry, I just had a thought on. Give me 1 second to get the guy here. Wasn't Kelly Craft? Who was the other guy we mentioned down here?
Hopefully not Kelly Craft. Badley?
No, it wasn't
Chris
Badley.
Baker?
It was a little bit. No.
Like who?
Joseph Bramlett. That's why. He's a guy that's making a lot of cuts. He was the other deep dive that I wanted to talk about for a second.
Bramlett.
Yeah, he's a guy that I think maybe I can see going through the weekend, but nothing of too serious. Again, we're just trying to find guys that get through the cut. And maybe he does it, but I don't know. We're really deep diving here. The other guy, he was one of the last people in the field. That's why I was getting confused because that's because we're going to talk about him right now in our hot takes, and it is JJ Spawn. So I saw him on your tweet. It's another sponsor exemption. He's playing OK Golf. So tell me what we're going to get out of him this week.
Yeah, so obviously what we're going to get is who knows. This guy has been up and down. He's battled some injuries. The form is not great. But again, I want to go similar to what I did with Bryce Garnett. I just want to take you through JJ Spawn's career. He was a runner-up at RSM in 2017. Okay. His next best finish on tour was in 2018 at OHL. That's where we are at Mayakoba. He has a 6th place at Heritage. Those are 3 of his top 5 finishes on tour. He has another 14th at OHL. Again, that's where we are. And a 17th at Puerto Rico, 21st at Honda. Those are 5, 6 of his top 10 best finishes on tour. He has a couple others at Farmers and Safeway and some of these other courses in California. JJ Spawn is built for a coastal track where you can club down off the tee and lean on the irons. He did not play well at RSM. He is not playing well. I think that there is an opportunity here, though, to buy very low. I'm going to say that JJ Spawn is certainly going to make this cut. And I think that he can get in the mix. I'm not going to call for anything crazy, but a top 20, something like that, it would still pay a nice amount. While you give your hot take, I'm actually going to go to OddsShopper. Quick shout out to oddshopper.awesemo.com, where we get the best odds in the business. You go there, you can click on the guy, you search JJ Spawn. I'm going to do it right now on the show just to show you how easy this is. Boom. Best price, 16-1 on a top 10 for JJ Spawn. That's serious money if you can get it right. Long shot, but I like it.
I love it. I'm definitely, he's going to get a couple of lineups for me this week, and I'll give a nice, another little quick plug here. One of my new things that I'm doing is, of course, those top 5 videos, and one of them
definitely check them out.
Yeah. Top 5 bets of the week that I came out with. And of course you can find this, all of those. If you don't like watching my ugly face, which I totally understand, and you want to just listen to the picks, check out our podcast network. Yeah, just check out our podcast network. That's what it's for. Get my ugly mug off of the screen. Just listen to the content that we've got. All you got to do to find that, awesemo.com, and right across the top banner, click Podcast Network, scroll to Awesemo Golf, and bam, it's right there. All of the content that we do, whether it's video or audio, it is in podcast format for you. So one of those takes was a 7-1 bet on Andy Ogletree for the top 20. Again, I'm going in on these young guys because I've found success betting them early before the books, mark them to where they're going to be, maybe longer term. You know, one of my biggest hits was betting Matt Wolff to win his first win, and in Colin Morikawa top 5 in the same event. Taking that same approach here. Ogletree has won that mid-am. We've seen a guy like Doc Redman, who I think is a very comparable talent level to Ogletree, do pretty well on the PGA Tour. So top 20, I think it's a good spot for Andy Ogletree. But since that's not too hot takey, Doug gosh darn Gim gets it done for a top 10 this week, or I'm never playing him again. Bottom line. It's top 10 or nothing, and a top 20 for Ogletree. Those are my hot takes for the Mayakoba this week.
I like it. It's been, I just want to say a couple quick words. We got a minute or two left. One amazing comment. If JJ Spawn wins to end 2020, I won't play DFS golf all of 2021. Neither will I, but it's because I'll be retired. That would be fantastic. Obviously, Chad, it's been a crazy year. I'm not going to get into all that, but for us, it's been so much fun on this show. Really grown and build it. And it's because of you guys. So I said this on the Tuesday show. 2 things. First, I'm going to say for our last show, we do have to get over 100 likes. So we're gonna hit that like button. But as I say that, me and Jason, you can follow us on Twitter. Our handles are right there. If you are in Slack, or even if you're not, if you have feedback on the show, if you say, I wish you guys covered this, or, you know, there's no show that does this, let us know, because we want to change up the show. We want to add more. The show is about you guys. And if there's anything out there that you think would make you guys a better player, or just make the show better in general, let us know. We've got a couple weeks to retool. We're going to be unveiling some fun new things here at Awesemo. So on that note, we're going to get on out of here for 2020. You will be seeing us, like I said, keep an eye out. Me and Jason are going to put out some quick, easy Euro content in the coming weeks. Certainly you'll see me for college football, NFL, and all that. So on that note, good luck everyone at Mayakoba. Thanks for a great year. We'll be back and better than ever in 2021.